and welcome to another episode of What the Falk podcast. Probably not the greatest one we're ever going to do, and that's just because Graham's not here. He's sunning it up in some foreign country, Rome, I think. Going to pick the bones out of a rather uninspiring, dull 1-0 defeat to Hull, I think. To pick the bones out of it with me, we've got Stalwart and been here well over a season now. Good old Roscoe. How you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, first one back of the year, I think. God, what a one I've picked to come talk about. There's just so much excitement, so much great things to talk about. No, it was an absolute gruel of the day. Really disappointing. But I'm sure we'll try and find some positives if there was any out of it, because that's what we do. And hopefully after this therapy session, I'll feel a bit better. Because on the way home, after having to walk all the way to Sunderland city centre as well, because the card machine wasn't working on the metro, I was just like, I need this day to be done with.
I think we can safely say if people knew what we'd done tonight to try and get this podcast recorded, if I'm not mistaken, you were 15 minutes late for the game, Roscoe. And yeah, it's just been an all-round bad one, I think. Just very Sunderland-like. And also with us tonight is, 5 shows in a row now, is it, Sophie? Something like that?
Something like that.
Unfortunately, we're seeing a few too many defeats, but I don't think that's reflective of you. It's just
No.
that time of the year, I think. What was how are you feeling after today?
I feel like I've put myself through 90 minutes of torture, and you know what? When it's early kickoff as well, it sticks with you all day. You're constantly thinking about it. I've just replayed everything in my head 10 times over at least. It was just, yeah, it was torture. That's the only way I can describe it. It was so frustrating, annoying, and like you say, it was flat, dull, everything in between.
The the abuse, the racism that Romain Mundell received today, I think sums up the day that we've had. I don't, from what I'm led to believe, I don't think it was a Sunderland fan who sent him the messages, but it's just got no place. And I think we'd all stand together, especially us as the fifth, sixth, seventh Sunderland podcast, whatever we're classed as nowadays. And I'm sure everyone above us would agree. There's just no place for it. It's not 1930 anymore. We're a little bit beyond that, and I know we can be. It's not necessarily a Sunderland fan. I know we can all be reactionary, and he's probably had a 50 pence bet on Mundell to score or something like that, and that's probably where it comes from, and it's pathetic. But yeah, I just wanted to be the first to say that it's absolutely disgusting. There's no need for it. We're all better than that in the year 2025. Yeah, if you're thinking of doing things like that, just don't. There's better things to do in life. Just keep your mouth shut and move on. So that's my kind of 10 pence worth on it. But uh, I guess where I want to start with it is, and we'll come to you first, Ross. What was you thinking as soon as you saw the starting 11?
I searched up union rep numbers to send to Chris Rigg because that man needs a break. For all the praise we've given the club for how good they've been progressing the young lads through, we're seeing a bit of a pattern here where the first year, Callum Doyle was running at the ground, knackered. We didn't see the best of Callum Doyle because of that. Job, to an extent, last season, I felt we didn't see any of him anywhere near. Even now, I think he looks a bit leggy, but especially last season, he looked half the player that he's shown this year because he just got played too much for his age and his experience. And today, Chris Rigg shouldn't have played the last two games, in my personal opinion. He looks absolutely dead on his feet. And it's not a case of people going, oh, well, is he just, you're seeing all things now going, well, is he just not that good yet? Well, he's shown how good he is at the start of the season. So to me, it's now to do with that. And I just feel like we've got to have a bit of, how do I say it? A bit of just common sense, really. Of course, if he's on his day, he's probably in our starting 11. Of course he is. He's the best man for the job. But whilst he's in the situation he's in now where he's just running on empty, then he doesn't need to be in the team because he's not giving us anything. And I felt really sorry for him. Like, I think just before he got taken off, he went to do a run where the start of the season last year, he was running onto these when he got the first touch in the way. That's the one thing with Rig, you always seen his sharpness. And he fell over his touch basically and went out to play. And it kind of summed up the day. And to be fair, as soon as he did that, my ender was straight on, getting ready to go. But overall, you look at the team, it just needs freshened up, man. And we need something different. And I think we've kind of understood why it stayed the same whilst we were in touching distance, because they can always go, look, we've got this far, we can stick with it. But now that we're clearly out the race, I think we were out the race as soon as that Leeds winner went in. If we're being realistic, it was people clutched onto straws that if we'd win today, and then Sheffield United get beat. But yeah, it's time to freshen up. We're too easy, too predictable to play against, and I feel like the lads on the pitch need something new as well, because I've watched that home game 3 games in a row now, and we're finally being beaten, and I feel like it's been coming. I think we've glossed over a lot, especially like the Watford game, the last minute equaliser. It helped that Luton were the worst football team we've ever seen, if we're being honest, because they were shocking. But today, of course, Hull really didn't do much. I'm sure we'll get on to the fact that we chucked it into our own net. But yeah, it's been coming, I think, and I think it's time to freshen things up.
I guess Ross has summed it up well there. I kind of want to. You weren't here for the previews and the season previews and things like that, but the one thing that I certainly mentioned was I was worried about the lack of depth in the squad. And is this now becoming a bit of a theme that Labrie doesn't necessarily trust his whole squad? Is that the reason that we're seeing the likes of Job, Rig, Roberts to a degree, like kind of flogged a little bit too much? And I mean, yeah, if that is the case, how do we get out of this? How do we stop this rut? What do we change? Who do we change? Or how does Labrie change things in your opinion?
I definitely think that he's reluctant to change his first 11. Like he's obviously stuck on the fact that that's his best 11. But considering what happened at Leeds, obviously we played on Monday. That team needed rotating, regardless of even if we were even close to automatic. Still, if we were even in touching distance, it needed changing and it needed freshening up, as Ross has already said. But he's obviously got his favourites in the squad. When Roberts is playing week in, week out, twice a week, that type of thing. And, Rig, I hate shouting at Rig. I hate it. Obviously, I was at Leeds and I thought in that game he looked leggy. He looked like his age was showing compared to everybody else. But this is the reason why you have a squad. So when you're approaching these games, and that's the concern now for me, is we've got, 12 games left? And with a few good wins, hopefully a bit of momentum, we can probably confirm our place in the playoffs. And then you've got, right, well, we've got nothing to play for apart from momentum. And that's got to be kind of the preparation. He's got to change that midfield up. You've got your Sameds, you've got Milans, you've got Alan Brown, who I thought Alan Brown could have came on and made a real impact. I thought midfield was just it looked knackered. And then it comes across to the fans and probably people who don't get to watch us, a lot or aren't season ticket holders, to think actually they don't care. There's no desire there. When actually that's them giving their 100% because of how tired they are. So I think Labrie has to look at himself in the mirror and realise the rotation, because he's just going to burn out players, and then you're going to have to give them an extended period of time of rest. It's happened to us before with players, and we don't want that happening. But he's got to look and think, actually, I need to protect players as well from criticism. I've got to protect players from potential injuries and that type of thing, because that's what happens.
I think we're definitely for the great start that Labrie has had. I think the one thing that I was very conscious of was the fact that it's his first season in English football, and I think it's such a different game over here compared to anywhere. It's why people tell you that it's the greatest football league in the world, the Premier League. They also say the Championship is the hardest football league in the world because it's so competitive. There's, you know, for balance, we have done so well to keep in touch with those top three sides, and we are at a risk of burnout. And Labrie said himself the other week, he played Samed um, to try and find different ways and different solutions. But I kind of look at it today and I think to myself, he's made three substitutions and two of them were through injuries. And, we've good friend of the show and regular contributor, good old brothers. He did say like he felt that he was a bit not proactive enough and a little bit too reactionary and at the minute it's really hard to disprove that. I mean, coming onto the game, we've obviously took a bit of a hit playing Leeds. You'd think that Hull is the perfect game to come back and respond to, really, Ross. But I guess by not freshening up any part of that 11, it's for me, it felt as though it carried over the hangover from Monday night, which is perfectly understandable. And also for how clever, the one thing that I want to say is for how clever Daniel Falk was the other night. You have to, and Labrie was right. Sometimes you have to stand there and throw your hands up and go, you know something, they were just better. But there was little tweaks that Daniel Fark put out there, making his centre halves run with the ball to tire our forward line out. Very clever. We haven't reacted to it. And then also realizing that they'd had 20 corners, dangerous set pieces in the first half, and nobody's attacking the ball, and then brings a centre half on in Sturrock, and he scores 2 goals. It's clever management. And are we seeing someone who's been in English football for quite a while under Daniel Fark? And that's maybe just a little bit of difference. I mean, today again, I thought that hangover from Monday night carried over, and for me, for as much as it's horrible that Pato has thrown it in the back of his net, there's no excusing it. It was terrible. It was horrific. But I don't necessarily think they should have gotten a corner in the first place because I'm really not sure what Luke O'Nine's doing, if I'm honest. He's trying to be too cute. He's trying to be too clever. And I think it was a situation that could have been avoided because I didn't think the Hull forward would pressing him that hard in the first place. But that's my take on it. I don't know how you feel, bud.
Yeah, no, you've covered a lot there. I think too many players were just nowhere near the standard that's required. We were tentative in the tackle. We never moved the ball quick once. It was so like see you could see which pass was going to happen before it was taken. So we can see it in the crowd, and it's so easy for the whole defence to get into shape and react to it. I can't remember. Normally, we put the odd ball in over the top for Isidore. I can't remember many at all game. We never once turned the defence. We never once ran the channels. If we did, it was an overhit pass, you know what I mean? Or it just didn't come off. And yeah, it's the worry for me is, like you say, on about Patterson conceding is how many we are now conceding from crosses. It's becoming a real issue because we know with how young and the way we play, we're not the most physical team to start off with. But if we're going to start conceding soft goals like that, then we are in trouble, especially going into the playoffs. So that's another thing that needs to be eradicated. But yeah, it was just we could have played that game now and we still wouldn't have scored. It was one of them games where Hull, to be fair to them, did fuck all, really. But they didn't need to be. They just needed to be solid, and they got the goal, and they were like, "Right, you break us down," and we couldn't do it. And it's really frustrating that we've allowed ourselves to get into this situation, the management, but also I felt the players today. Yes, there's fatigue in there, but I did feel like they felt a bit sorry for themselves, especially after the first one went in. And I think it probably is going to be a case of for a lot of them now, right? They know for sure now it's done what you got about you because if we're being honest, probably one of the last away fixtures you want, no matter what form they're in. You don't really want to going to Hillsborough on a Friday night in front of the Sky TV. After the way we've played the last few games, we're on for the Harrogate defeats on Sky TV, which is just bloody brilliant. So yeah, it's to me, it's one of them that's been coming. It has factors like you say, fatigue and that, but I also think now the players need to take responsibility. Like, I'm not trying to dig him out here, but Sirkin definitely didn't put his head in for an opportunity off the line for me. And yeah, I get he could take a whack in the face. It's easy for me to see us standing there with my free layers on when it's not even cold, shouting at them on me with my bottle of water in the stand. But if you're a defender, you're there to defend the goal, and it's not just him, mind, it's the commitment from the whole lot. There's a few 50-50 tackles today where I felt like we came out second best, a few shoulder to shoulders where I felt like we were too easily pushed off the ball. Just all them fine margins. I felt like Hull they just showed a bit more desire today, which is the most disappointing thing. I can understand if we got beat by quality like Leeds. No problem with that at all. Today, though, I feel like you say we kind of defeated ourselves. So I'm hopeful that now this whole Fortress Stadium like bollocks can stop being spouted by the club as well, because that was gonna bite us on the arse eventually, wasn't it? Especially when they put the 6 game ticket out, and then the presser said, "Join us at the Fortress Stadium." Like, well, that lasted 1 game. Well done, well done. Just had to get that off my chest as well because it really annoyed us, Dave.
I think ultimately it's just an ultimate Sunderland day, isn't it? We have them, and we haven't had too many of them this season, which has been quite nice. But when they do come, they don't half hit hard, and I think I echo what Sophie says. There, we have to start building momentum. If that comes to we're going to go on a bit of a bad spell, and I know we've got Coventry coming up. It's horrible team to play against. They've got a bit of momentum. You've already said Chef Wed. Uh, it's amazing how football changes, isn't it? Because in a period of time, there was probably 6 weeks ago, I was saying, bring on anyone in the playoffs, bring them on, absolutely up for it. Listen, this will be the biggest mess I've ever seen if Sunderland do not qualify for the playoffs. Let's put it that way. It will be the biggest mess I've ever seen since Keegan threw the league away from them lot up the road. That is for sure. And I don't think it's going to happen. But my worry is if we go into them playoffs and there's a few narratives kicking about here and there, I don't even want to think about them if we haven't got momentum. There's 3 stories at West Bromwich Albion. You've got ex-manager, you've got ex-centre forward, and you've got Geordie centre forward. I do not fancy going into that game having played the last 8 games of the season with 2 wins, 3 draws, and 3 defeats. Just do not fancy it whatsoever. So I agree. If he's going to experiment, I think it needs to be in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know what he's going to do it. But one great thing that we like to be consistent with on this show, and we haven't got much to shout about today, I don't think. But Sophie, what was your take on the penalty?
I mean, you know what? When I was actually watching the game, I didn't think maybe there was enough on it. But once I've seen the replays, it is absolutely a penalty. Is absolute. You know what? The referees in this league are absolutely shocking. You know what? You could see what Hull were going to do from a mile off when obviously we gave ourselves a mountain to climb with the goal. We gifted them the goal, but they wasted time from the get go. It was unreal. And you're screaming at the ref. You're going, come on, like start booking people. And yeah, it's just one of them days, really. But it was a penalty all day long for me. And obviously, I haven't seen. I think we had an offside goal, didn't we? I haven't seen if that was offside yet. Yeah, it's just we've just got to go again. And obviously, the concern is, like you've already said there, Dave, about teams will be going into the playoffs strongly, and they'll be going in with the momentum, and they'll be going in with when you've got momentum, everything goes for you. When you haven't, things go against you. And it felt like that today. It felt like, obviously Leeds, like you said, it was a hangover. It feels like it has destabilised us a little bit, and it's knocked us a bit. And maybe that's the reason why we need to kind of rotate and experiment now, so that you've got players coming in who are like, you know what, I want to play in the playoffs, I want to play at Wembley, and all that kind of thing, the psychological element.
Well, they say they balance out, don't they? And I think we've had quite a few bad ones this season that I'm just hoping it all happens at Wembley if we get there. And I'm just hoping we get like 5 penalties. Although I'm not sure who you get to take them, let's be honest about it.
I was just about to say that, one about getting a penalty. If you imagine, right, if we got that penalty, I think it was about 5 minutes left, and Wilson stepped up to take it, and I probably would have to go to the toilet and just wait for it, just hope for the best. Like, I love him, but again, I know, sorry to jump in there, we have got to mention that we did create a massive chance with Wilson, and for all how good he is, and he is a brilliant striker at this level, he needs to start putting these chances away. He misses the easier ones. He's a scorer of great goals, but he's not really a clinical goal scorer. And yeah, my ender was unlucky as well, but I just feel like that had to be mentioned for balance. That when we did create an opportunity, you know what I mean, we didn't take it, and that's something we're gonna have to adjust. And I thought Mundle was good. I mentioned Mundle. I don't know if you're gonna
Yeah,
jump onto that.
yeah, definitely. There is. You've got to remember, we're not talking about a 5-0 defeat here. It is disappointing. It is frustrating. Again, we love popping that word out, or I certainly do, recently. And a lot of it is frustration, and we always trying to be balanced. And for me, there's a lot riding on the style of play that we have. It's very, very slow build up through the phases, and it's not very explosive. It does invite a lot of pressure. And I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, every time we play against teams with low blocks, we're not that good." Yeah, there is an element to it. I've kind of, I don't really want to, I don't really want to get into the whole, "Oh, has it been a bad January transfer window and stuff like that?" There's been positives to it. Lefay's been wonderful at times. He's possibly a little bit fatigued himself for how little football he's played. But it's certainly not panic stations. We've got a 12-point gap over seventh.
It is a bit of
Yeah,
a panic though that you mentioned about Lefay there. Um, I noticed this that when we got a corner in stoppage time, he was feeling his leg, his hamstring, and he didn't take the corner. Roberts took it. That he didn't come out for the second half, and then Ballard, who in my opinion was probably the best defender on the pitch first half, while everyone else was having total mind fucks on the pitch every time they seen a football come towards him in the air. He was putting his head in it and clearing it with that block. It was a good block, to be fair, but you knew as soon as he went down, you were like, "Oh God, Ballard's gone for another few months now." And unfortunately for Ballard, a bit like Alessi, that's the reason why they're still at Sunderland, because if they put consistent runs together with the performance levels that they can hit, then they wouldn't be in the championship. But yeah, that's the other concern. I just hope that, like you say, Reggie Slibbery can have a plan B, because at the minute it's Reggie Leno plan B. That's how it feels.
very good. We like that. I'm just looking through some of the questions on Twitter and trying to find out if there's anything we haven't really covered, but I don't think there is. There's a bit of it. Bowers asked, "Is it a coincidence that home performances have dipped somewhat with Dodds leaving, or is he reading too much into it?" I mean, Sophie, if you want to take the floor, I've got my opinion on it, but
Um, you know what? It's so weird because I have such a mixed opinion on Dodds, because I had such great experiences with him. The first time he was left in charge, and then the second time, I hated the man. Hated him. Um, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that it's just, I don't know. They say he was big on opposition analysis, wasn't he? So um, maybe. I mean, we were still playing exactly the same way that we are now, and we're still one-dimensional in terms of in terms of that. I mean, sometimes you think you're at home, unbeaten at home, obviously until today. Go 4-4-2, go attacking, do it in front of your home fans. Why are we so scared to do that? Maybe we needed Dodds back to tell him that, but I don't know.
I think the thing that I find a little bit weird about this situation, I think personally, and there's going to be some 40, 50, 60-year-olds out there absolutely cursing me and getting their keyboards out when I say this, but I'm a great believer that 4-4-2 has served its time. But the weird thing about it is it actually worked for us for a couple of weeks. It gave us a different element to how we played, and we were probably forced into it a little bit, but it kind of gave us the impetus that on the ball we were a little bit more direct, and it just sped up our play a little bit from what I thought. Now, yes, I know Ross was having panic attacks watching some of the games because he's like, it's not a formation for out of possession, and I agree, it's a difficult formation to get your other winger to tuck right in and become the third centre midfielder, which is what you need when you're trying to combat most teams who have got three centre midfielders nowadays, or at least two centre midfielders and a 10 kind of dropping in. But Ross, because you're the one who had these panic attacks when we were playing like that, is there an argument? I think you're right. I think we knew it after Monday night, really. But now that we do have to experiment, we do have to find some momentum. Is it worth trying 4-4-2? I think my end has been the unlucky one, really, because I think he played himself into a bit of form, personally.
No, definitely. The thing that annoys me with my ender is he had that really bad spell around Christmas and we persisted with him. Then I feel like he really turned it round playing well against, who was it at home? Sheffield United. And then put in a good performance off the bench against Burnley. And then he scored against Derby and you're like, here we go. He hasn't started a game since. And again, I'm on about like Labrie. Like, obviously, he's done amazing with this team, but some of the decisions recently have been a bit, yeah. But it's not just 4-4-2. It's, to me, we've never really differentiated from the midfield three, have we, at all this season? It's been the same system type, all 4-4-2, and that's the thing that annoys me the most is the lack of variations in either a diamond or a box midfield or anything like that. You know what I mean? I just want to see more, especially when you get teams like Hull who are quite happy to sit in. You've got to show variation in your patterns of play as well, and it became very obvious that Hull were quite happy to let us get the ball from Job O'Neill out of Hume or Roberts or Mundell and Cirkin, and then they just doubled up on the wingers and they packed the box for the crosses. And yeah, we just needed something more. What that is, I'm not sure because I don't get paid millions of pounds to be a football manager, and that's why I pay to watch them. So hopefully, like you say, hopefully a game like Sheffield Wednesday is actually what we need. Big crowd. We're going into it and the back, like our backs up, going right. Show us what we're about, and hopefully we can do that. And yeah, I'm just hoping to see a response and hopeful that Labrie just takes a handbrake off and goes right. Time to have a go at it now.
Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing that I want to remind everyone of. We've said it quite a while. It started under Alex Neil. I still think I see signs of it now under Labrie, and we always seem to respond. These players do care. I've heard a few people a day kind of mentioning, they don't look arse. No, I think they're tired. I think they're fatigued. I think they're playing a little bit too one-dimensional. I don't think they're getting the right type of information. We've got a style of player. It's as simple as that. And a lot of teams and a lot of fans will cry out for a style of player. And our style of player is slow, deliberate, through the phases. And we have to accept that. It's not going to change. We're not suddenly going to turn into fast, quick, direct. We haven't got them type of players. And while there is different ways and things to tweak things, I think we do have to realise that the process is there. I didn't see much of players' interviews and managers' interviews today, but Luke O'Nien did come out with a decent one. He said, when we get beat, we will take away, we will learn, we will analyse, and we'll become better for it. And I fully believe that. I fully believe that that is Labry's kind of stamp. He will be so into the attention to detail, and he will realise that today, especially, the attention to detail was not there. And he's the one who gets paid. Ross is exactly right. He's the one who gets paid to find out the answers to them problems. He wouldn't want it to go on too long because he's had the full backing of Sunderland fans, and I don't think we're anywhere near on the majority turning on him or anything like that. So please don't think that that's what I'm saying. But you know, you wouldn't want to have 3, 4, 5 defeats in a row because the natives will get a little bit restless, and understandably so. Understandably so. I'm not so sure if a Friday night game at Hillsborough is what we need, Ross, unfortunately. But, you know, the one thing I will say is we do tend to react, and you could be right. It could just be a challenge out there. Dare I say it? Would I go 4-4-2? Would I put my ender up there with him? Would I play Samed as a holding midfielder in that 4? Yeah, I probably would. Why not? I haven't seen anything great from him, but the one thing I do think is when he hits his peak fitness, I think he will be an athlete. That's for sure. He's obviously got to prove it. He's got to prove it to everyone, not just me. But where we've got Sunderland, we've always got hope, and it's always the hope that kills us, I guess. And these podcasts help me and hopefully help other people because I feel a little bit better for trying to get this podcast recorded for the last 2 hours. Wow, that was stressful enough. Sophie and Ross have had to be very, very patient with me because I am the granddad of the group. Apart from Peter, he's the great granddad. We'll give him a special mention. But, folks, it's been fantastic. At least we haven't got to wait a week for a response. We've only got to wait 6 days. Fingers crossed it comes. But, yeah, I wish you well. Hopefully, Graham is enjoying his time in Rome. And hopefully, go on, Roscoe.
Is just wondering if any of you are going to Sheffield. It's a good trip, Sheffield.
I was expecting Sophie might have been, to be fair.
I know. Our resident away here, isn't there?
No, funnily enough, my dad and my brother are going with me granddad, so
Well,
there you
are
go.
represented then. We'll take that. We'll take that. Brilliant. Well, guys, let's hope it's a more what's the phrase? Let's hope it's a more optimistic review next week. But for now, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dave's going to try and find the record button now.
Yeah. Stop recording if you